So welcome to our event on investigating how Labour can revive landscapes and protect communities by making space for water. We know that rivers are in crisis. They've suffered from decades, in fact centuries of abuse. We've become disconnected from them. They've been straightened, narrowed, deepened, disconnected from the countryside and disconnected from communities. We've used them for pouring our waste into, and we've taken too much water from them. They're struggling. But they are part of our critical natural infrastructure. They are the blue threads that stitch together food resilience, climate resilience, public health, nature and local prosperity. We need them if we're going to thrive as communities into the future. Their resilience enables us to be resilient to climate change. They can help us to tackle and cope with extremes of water, both the flooding that we're seeing and the drought that we're seeing. If they and their catchments are healthy, then they enable us to deal with those challenges so much more. So I would like to pose the question to Bella to start with. How do you think Labour can revive and protect communities by making space for water?
The next thing is then really properly recognising the role that nature-based solutions can play in this space, and doing that in the way that really gives certainty and proper funding trajectories to nature-based solutions to some of these problems. I have worked a lot in the trees area, and that's a great example. Planting trees and managing woodlands effectively, and field margins, trees and field margins, all really amazing ways that nature-based solutions can support the management of water through the landscape. But it's very difficult to make projects happen at scale that can protect whole cities in the case of something like the White Rose Forest without long-term certainty and funding security for those projects.
First is the policy itself. If we were to be able to win our campaign and have a serious change about how we connect up our river corridors and make space for water in that way, I think for a policy sense, for it to be effective, for it to work, and obviously you touched on this already, I think working with farmers and with landowners is essential. The thing won't work without a really effective strategy there. The interesting thing, actually, if I speak to farmers and landowners in my constituency, loads of them are doing really good stuff already. If they've got agricultural land that butts up against a riverway, lots of them doing it in their own kind of voluntary way. Mm. They are thinking, how can I adapt my farming practices and the way I manage and care for this land? So actually, it takes care of the riverway as well. So I think for me, us getting that collaborative approach is essential for this policy working. For me, it's incumbent that this Labour government picks up this campaign, listens to the arse, and then gets on with it, because the other parties right now just do not seem interested. I think it's absolutely essential that we lead that charge and we don't shy away from it. So for me, that's the two big things we've got to get right. The policies we've got to get right, but also the politics is important as well.
Yeah, it's really good to hear that, you see yourself as the party that can pick up and run with this, because, as I say, I think, it is a great collaboration between land and land managers and the environment, and there has such opportunity and tackles so many problems that we're facing, and as you say, that resilience and the ability to cope with floods and make space for water in the landscape for that is really, really key.
Are there enough financial incentives to help farmers?
This is the point we were saying earlier. Is I think for farmers and landowners, it does need to be made as simple as possible. Understanding there's a lot of frustration in farming at the moment, and I think there's a lot of people feeling like there hasn't been a great deal of certainty for the best part of a decade. And whether we're talking about financial support for doing the right thing by the environment, or with what's happened with Brexit and what the impact that's had on farmers, the list goes on and on and on about some of the huge inconsistencies and turmoil that's been facing farmers. They'll want to do the right thing by this, but they need to have easy and adequate financial support if they are going to play their part.
Hello, so Craig Bennett, Chief Executive of the Wildlife Trusts. The first thing I want to say is, as Wildlife Trust, we strongly support the need for much greater river corridors across this country, I find it hard to think of a single policy that would tick so many boxes about what's needed. Creating the backbone of nature recovery network, making us more resilient, not least to floods in the future as the climate changes, holding water back in the landscape to be more resilient during droughts, reducing soil erosion, reducing runoff of effluent into our rivers, and reducing flood risks. And of course, let's not forget that the Labour Party had in its manifesto a promise of 9 new river walks. And of course, this could absolutely be connected to this. So strongly support it and congratulate the campaign. Let's talk some more, Tessa, about how we can work together on this, because it absolutely needs to happen.
So I like to think that, yes, there are huge problems, but there's also huge opportunities to fix things and improve things and work on making them better. And of course, we want our river walks and we want to do all of those other exciting things to promote and have nature. And I don't see them in competition, because, yes, we need the water, but actually, okay, let's think about something as basic from my own constituency about the aqua greens that we've just created. So we've just done a Living with Water project, which is Yorkshire Water, the Environment Agency and the local council creating aqua greens where I live. Now, that's a win for flooding, so everybody's quite pleased. They're not going to get their homes flooded. It's a win for nature, because actually they're lovely biodiverse spaces that are in the middle of an urban environment where no space like that previously existed. And it's a win for growth, because it means you can have more things that are going to be built if you're not concerned about there being flooding. And it's a win for pollution as well, because actually if you hold some of that rainwater in the aqua green, it's not entering the combined sewage overflow system and it's not ending up out on the storm overflow. So there are wins. And I think one of the things I was so sort of keen and excited about, and I need to be careful not to say too much because we are responding officially to our flood consultation, but you will have noticed, those of you who read the document, the natural flood management being such a big feature. And I think what a perfect example of how we can win growth and how we can win for nature, in that natural flood management means that we're dealing with some of the flooding problems so we can have the development we need, but it also means that, great, isn't this really good for nature and biodiversity as well? So, I mean, there's loads of opportunities. So yes, there are problems and the difficulties, which I don't underestimate, but there are also great opportunities to do things in a different way.
And for all of the potentially big steps forward for land managers, landowners who are trying to do the right thing, at the moment they're in a bit of hiatus because of what's happened on agri-environment. A lot of the interventions, things like buffer strips, at the moment sit across multiple schemes, and those schemes are on pause. We don't know what's coming next. We've got some people who've been in agri-environment agreements for 25 plus years who don't know what they're going to do at the end of this year when those come to an end. And that need for certainty is absolutely vital if you're going to get people to do the right thing. It isn't just about the macro level strategies, it's about the individual farm business on a tiny, tiny margin that can't afford to do this stuff without the public investment. And so I would plea for certainty in that space so that people can continue to do the good things that they've been doing and build on that for the future.
We just want to reiterate that we would like government support for making space for water, and we would like to see that put through with some clear targets, but also for clear, easy to understand, easy to access incentives for landowners so that they can actually deliver on this. We'd also like to ask for a meeting to talk to you, Angela Eagle and Mary Craig together, because it's a very cross-cutting policy. So to talk to the three of you together would be really useful.
What was really interesting about sort of the nature-friendly farming network, I've got lots of their members in my constituency and NFU members and others as well, and they all really want this to work. And actually there is a lot of support for this campaign, and lots of them in their own special way already do what they can, and they're almost sort of they're moving quicker than government is on this, and they understand the problem with the deteriorating water quality. So I think we need to catch up with them, and I think it's really important that government do back this campaign, and it's us, and actually we can start learning from them.
And on the questions around meeting, I think one thing I would hope people would say that since I've become a minister is I've been really keen on the co-production thing. I made a deliberate point to turn the department out-facing and to invite people to come in and have that more interaction, because I don't claim to be the expert in every area, but I know people who are. And in terms of those meetings, we've got roundtables coming up, looking at it. We're also looking at developing the white paper. You know, we want to hear from that level of expertise because we want to have that good policy. Now, I can't commit my other ministers to meetings because that'd be hugely unfair, but of course I am available if you want to sort of pick that up and take that forward, because I think having those conversations, I'm particularly interested in, because I haven't got all my everything worked out as how this will work, but I know I have the idea, is how are we going to make this work on a regional level?
Okay.
That's the exam question.
Thank you very much.
Well,
big round of applause for the panel. Thank you all for coming.